Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business. Write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Cesar Abade.
Learn from the experts. Think outside the box. Have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Good morning, Traci. What's up?
Good morning, Cesar. I am here in Sugar Land, Texas with, as I texted you a picture this morning, snow on my banana tree.
You know, I grew up in Brazil where there's a lot of banana trees, but no snow. So that picture was really bizarre. And you know, maybe we should put that on the show notes so people can see what that looks like. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be great. That's fine.
Are you okay with sharing your picture of your backyard?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's one of those days. I mean, I feel like I'm in Toronto, except, I mean, it's still going to go up into the 40s today, and it'll be in the mid 60s tomorrow, 70 on Sunday. So it's just a temporary thing, but it's still kind of weird. I'm looking at my window right now and seeing snow on all the branches of the trees. Reminds me of when I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And you know, this was not planned in any way, but as I looked at that tree, that tree has a purpose of producing bananas, and there's all that snow on it, and it's just like standing its ground. I'm gonna make bananas, right? And today's episode is about reclaiming your power and purpose, and that to me is like a nice little metaphor for what we're talking about here. What do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because it's still going to be there, right? It's still going to, but it's just like your banana trees in Brazil. It's not used to what's going on right now, but it'll make it through.
Right.
It's not, yeah.
And we've been talking about self-leadership. It's about power and purpose. So today we're going to talk about that, about how can we reclaim some of this power if we lose it, so we can still make bananas even if we are in a snowstorm in Texas.
Right. Because I mean, it's all about accomplishing your purpose and having the passion to do that. And part of it is just that, reclaiming your power. So.
Mm-hmm. Now we talk about having a purpose. There's even that best-selling book called The Purpose-Driven Life by Pastor Warren, I think his name is. That was like, I don't know, I think it was in the 90s. That was like all over the place. And I have never read it, but I feel like I have because people quote it all the time. So I guess if you piece together all the quotes, I may have read the book. But how? Okay, first of all, if people listening right now, they don't know what their purpose is, like they haven't really thought about that. What do we say?
What do we need to do? Well, we just need to tell them to listen to the next episode, because that's really, I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover how to create your purpose, because so many people say, "Oh, I haven't found my purpose." And then they just go sit on the couch. Well, their purpose is not going to knock at the front door, right? So next time, I want to talk about, first of all, reclaiming your power so that you can go after your purpose. And then next time, we will cover how to actually create it. A little different than what Pastor Rick Warren or some of the other folks may have described for you. And matter of fact, I just did a PMI Seminars World instructor there in Miami, and the stuff that we'll cover in our next episode was what they said was the most powerful part of the whole 2 days that we had in seminar. So little tease for the next time.
All right. So if people haven't already skipped to the next episode.
That's right. Well, before you get to your purpose, you got to have the power to do that. And a lot of folks have been resigned to, well, what the world expects of them. And this episode is about, hey, how can I get back to me? How can I get back to my power? Okay.
Now, I'm an engineer, and you have a technical background as well in chemistry, right? Are you a chemical engineer or a chemist?
Oh, I didn't want to take the extra physics class, so I'm a chemist.
Okay. But you understand what I'm saying here, because when I read and hear about, your power or the energy that's coming from you and all this, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, power is capacity to do work, and energy, is like I'm thinking about in engineering terms, and I'm rolling my eyes, right? Like, okay, there, you don't, that's not power, that's not energy, that's something else, right? So, what do you mean when you say that we have to reclaim our power? What kind of power are we talking about?
Well, it is the energy that we have to do stuff. And Brendan Burchard, he always says, power plants don't have energy, they generate energy. And it's the same thing with people. We don't have energy. Most of the time we don't. We're just, I don't feel like it, right? I don't have the energy for it. But we can generate it. We can use our mind. We can use our body to generate energy. And in the book Superbrain, it was written in 2012 by Deepak Chopra. Some people may know him, and Rudolph Tanzi. They talk about power and personal power and using your brain to do it. And they said, if everyone has the power to make reality, why do countless people live in dissatisfaction? And so it's not about crystals because, I'm a logical, rational person too. But it's really about, hey, how can you reclaim that ability to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish?
And that's what you mean by power to make reality?
Yeah, absolutely. The power to do work. It's the same thing as engineering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I was reading this book. It was like I think it was like metaphysics or some spiritual book. Like the fact that we can use our minds to act out in the physical world, and then the first thing that came to mind was like, what, the Force, like Star Wars. No, it's like when you can actually use your mind to make your arm move up and actually create something, right? So in a way, we can use our minds, to make reality. And that's not just, something that Deepak Chopra would say, like, something more like mysterious and mystical, but it's a very physical thing. So the question is just, if you have the power to make this reality, so why are people not happy or not satisfied? So what do you think that the reason is here? Yeah, well,
the authors of the book Superbrain, I mean, they say that it's because people have lost some of their personal power. And then, okay, well, why have we lost personal power? I believe it's because we have thinking patterns and thinking habits that have been programmed into our brain. And these things served us in the past, but now they get in the way. So, when I go to speak, I always talk about, my mom telling me not to talk to strangers when I was a young kid. And so that got programmed into my head. And it served me really well when I was young because I was never kidnapped from the grocery store, the mall, or anything, right? But when you're trying to lead people and lead teams, that's a terrible habit to have. So I believe sometimes, and we can all blame it on our mothers if we want to. But I believe sometimes we have those habits and we've picked up those habits throughout life that get in the way.
So again, we're back to thinking and thinking habits that we've been talking about. Interesting. I see what you're doing, Traci.
You see what we're doing here?
After 6 episodes, I think I'm starting to get it.
Well, self-leadership, yes. Sometimes it's hard to get. It is sometimes hard to get because it's about changing your brain and looking at things from different perspectives.
Okay. So, all right. So personal power, that's what we're talking about here. So just to clear any misconceptions, is there like anything that you would say that personal power is not?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not force that you use like a weapon to get your own way. That's not what we're talking about here.
Like Yoda stuff, right?
Right. It's not that, right? It isn't suppressing what you don't like about yourself and having this big facade of this perfect idol that you are, right, for the world to admire. That's not power either. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's not about money or status or possessions or any other material surrogate that could be that could be a part of that facade either. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's not how many people report to you. It's not the size of your projects that you manage. Right. It's not your title and how you fall in the corporate hierarchy. That's not what personal power is. It's not what we're talking about here. So I just want to get that out of the way.
I guess they can your personal power can help you get to those things. It can get you more money eventually as a byproduct, I guess, or a bigger team or more important projects. But that's like the accident, not the essence, right?
Oh, I like that. That was good, Cesar. The accident, not the essence. Wow.
Aristotelian philosophy. Sorry.
Yeah, that's no, that was really good. Absolutely. That is the byproduct of personal power. Yeah.
Cool. So what is it then? Like, if it's not those things, then how would you define it?
I believe it's a combination of different attributes that we have as a human being, and you get to choose what attributes you value and that you generate, that you have, that you grow. So things like self-confidence, being good at making decisions, also being able to trust your gut, those feelings that you have. Things like optimism, that all of that contributes to personal power.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Can you think of any? Some attributes?
Yeah, like how you think about yourself. Like, we talked about that in previous episodes. Maybe self-esteem and one of those magic words that people use all the time. But confidence, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
And that, if you are a project manager or a leader in any way, the way that you influence others has a tremendous power.
Absolutely.
We call it a multiplying factor, right? Like, if you can influence people to be better, then you're not just better yourself, but you're multiplying that. So that's super powerful. So I don't know, like turning ideas into reality, which is the tagline for my book.
Exactly.
I think that's super powerful. And part of it is technique. It's project management in a way. But a big part of it is mindset and how you, the idea that you have that you want to turn into reality, and then, dreaming it hard enough to start actually taking action. And then, once you start doing that, like maybe obstacles that you encounter and how you get around them and you overcome them, that's also power, I think.
Yeah, and just to plug your book, I mean, that's what I love about your book is it gives you a way to reclaim your personal power, right? And you even tell stories about that, how you can use the tools and the knowledge that you have to take the ideas and turn them into reality.
Cool. So that's about power as well. Cool. Maybe that's maybe I should go back and second edition. I should have a power
rebrand.
Chapter. Yeah, a chapter on powers, personal power.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I believe that a lot of people, give it away. And I think that's what they were saying in the chapter there in the book, Super Brain, was that we're dissatisfied and we can sometimes not appreciate the power that we do have because we don't recognize it. So that's why I titled this one about reclaiming your personal power.
Mm-hmm. Because it's something that we have. We just need to dig it out, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm really surprised how many successful people, the executives that I coach, the high-level folks that I coach, that I meet that feel powerless. So you've heard of what are the imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah. So many people have that where they've achieved these really high levels, and yet inside they still feel powerless.
Yeah. They feel like they don't belong there. Somebody made a mistake. They're going to find out and they're going to fire me. Yeah. Look at all these other people who are doing, who are in the same role as I am. I mean, they're so much better than me. What am I doing here? It's only a matter of time before people figure out that I'm an imposter.
Exactly.
Right? When everybody's feeling that way. It's not just you. Maybe other people who are accomplishing even more things than you are, they feel even more that way than you do, but they're able to reclaim the power and push through regardless, right?
Yeah, and there may be some real life struggles as well, right? I mean, you may struggle with finances.
Yeah.
You may struggle with a controlling boss or partner or spouse, or maybe you just have this boring, mundane routine that you have to do at work in order to make your paycheck, right? Or just other difficult circumstances. And in order to get through those, I think it's really critical and crucial that you reclaim your power so that you can move forward there.
Cool. All right. So I think that made a good point, but how can we do this? How can we reclaim this power then? Do you have any tips?
Sure. I'm gonna steal them from the Super Brain book because I want our listeners to have super brains too. So the number one thing that they say in the book is to stop giving your power away. And so I'm like, okay, sure, yeah. I love when people say, "Hey, you have this bad habit. Just stop it." Right? Have you seen that video on YouTube, the Bob Newhart "Stop It" video?
Stop it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
He's a psychologist or like a therapist, right? And
and the lady comes in and she says, and he says, "Hey, I charge $5 for the first 5 minutes. I don't make change." Well, it's hilarious. And then he says, "What's your problem?" And she says, "I'm afraid of being buried alive in the box." And so they go through this episode, but we'll link to it in the show notes too. I'll make sure we do that. Yeah, it's hilarious. But to stop giving your power away, you can say that, but how do you do that? Because when we become powerless, when we give our power away, it's not usually some giant pterodactyl comes in and swoops in and grabs our power with its claws and then flies off, right? It's usually a process. And for most people, that process is so subtle and so gradual, they don't even recognize that it's happening.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any examples of how we do that without thinking that we're doing it? How we give away our power?
Oh, yeah. If you ever, if you hear yourself often saying, "Oh, it's not worth the fight, not worth the battle," you may be in those areas wherever it's not worth the battle, give away your power, right? I've had some owners of companies talk to me about their employees, and they just say, "Oh, it's not worth the fight," and I'm like, "It's your company." But they've given away power in a certain area of their company to this one sales guy or this one engineer or whatever, because they and so you think, okay, he's talking up in a meeting, I'm not going to say anything right now, and then talks up in the next meeting or says something and it's not aligned with who you are or where your company's going. I'll just let it go. I don't really want to confront him right now. And little by little, pretty soon, everyone's listening to him or her and not to you.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And I'm sure like people listening right now, if they're in a position of leadership and they have people reporting to them and you have, you have to coach them. I'm sure you have folks who are rock stars at what they do and they don't know it or they don't want to believe it. Right. And you're like, dude, you can do so much if you just stop thinking this way. I wish I had the knowledge that you have, but people, they give away their power because, as you said, like, oh, it's not worth the fight. Life sucks. And I'm like, if you could just unleash that power, right, you could do so much and you could be so much more.
Yeah, but it seems so easy to give away your power, right? I mean, let somebody else be accountable for stuff. Let somebody else be responsible. Let somebody else take ownership. I mean, it seems to be the popular thing to do. I mean, if I take accountability for something, I'm probably just going to get stabbed in the back anyway. So, and those are the thought habits, and that may have only happened to you once. If ever, you might just know of a story that it happened to somebody once, right? But you'll hear those thinking patterns in your head, and then you just accept that path.
How about unforgiveness? I find that people who hold grudges or they're unforgiving, they're letting whoever hurt them have control over their feelings, right? Like that's why I say forgiveness is not about the person that you're forgiving, but it's actually freedom for you. You agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, wholeheartedly. And I've seen it in my life. Whenever I've felt wronged by someone, I think somehow by not forgiving them, it punishes them. In the meantime, they don't even know. but I don't forgive them, right? And so in that case, not forgiving is really a way that I've given them my power.
Yeah.
See, they control that part of me, and a lot of times they don't even know that they do, right? I mean, they didn't consciously take my power. I gave it away.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
All of these things that we do that we let people take our power.
Yeah. Well, one of the others I just was thinking of too is social media too, right? So someone will state an opinion on social media, and then, oh yeah, that's a good one. We'll just follow that. Or we'll just unfriend them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when we just follow the opinions of the crowd and we don't think through things using our own values and thoughts and knowledge and experience and all that stuff, that's another way that we give away our power. I see kids doing that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
all right.
stop doing that. Stop it.
Stop giving the power away. All right.
Yeah.
What else can we do to reclaim this power?
The second thing they talk about in the book is examine why your brain thinks it is good, and they put this in quotes, to be a victim. And that was kind of interesting as I read through that, because they said once you start chipping away at your personal power and your self-worth, right, you just gradually give that away, you find that it's very easy to step into victimization.
Right.
And we define that as, they said, we define that as being a victim of selfless pain by saying that you don't count, you can make suffering a kind of virtue, like as all martyrs do.
Right.
So they say it's good to be a martyr when you're serving a higher spiritual purpose, but what if there is no higher purpose?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
What if it's just a habit that you developed? Because most victims, if you honestly look at it, they sacrifice themselves on the altar of worthless causes, causes that don't produce any value for them.
And but this is important. It's an important topic right now in the age of the hashtag Me Too and all that kind of stuff, because a distinction here, distinctions. The focus here is examining why your brain thinks it is good to be a victim. We're not saying that there are no victims, or that you're not. You may well be a victim of oppression or circumstances or natural disasters, and that is a bad thing. But I think with the focus here is like the brain thinking that it is a good thing to be in that position, right? Because it is some kind of a virtue to let somebody else take control of your meeting, for example, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Yes, there are people that are victims of natural disasters. I'm here in Houston. We had a big flood this year, right? Folks in California, the fire in Puerto Rico. Yeah, you can be a victim. What this is talking about is, do you stay there, right? Mentally in your head, do you stay there because it's good to do that? And so they talk about these good sufferings. What do they look like? It would be something like you taking the blame for somebody else's mistakes,
right?
And your brain telling you, "Oh, that's a good thing to do. It's good to be a victim of somebody else's mistakes." Right.
And that's interesting, because even let's say you are 100% a victim. Let's say you've been kidnapped and you're being held hostage somewhere in a dungeon, right? And you're completely powerless as to how to get out of there. Well, all is left for you, it's your brain, right? And so that's all of a sudden, that's the only power you have. It's how you look at the situation. So I think it is a very good thing, or very good arrow for your quiver, I guess, of going through life, to know how to get out of your head when things are not going well for you. Even if you can't do anything about it at the moment in terms of actually getting out of that situation, you can change your reality by how you're thinking about it. And that's what we've been talking about all along since we started this series.
Yeah, absolutely. And you reminded me of the book Man's Search for Himself by Viktor Frankl, who was in a Nazi concentration camp for years, right? And that's exactly what he talks about. He talks about, being able to, even in that that place where you physically have no power, you don't have to give up the power to be and become and search and learn and grow. You don't have to give up that power just because somebody has kept you captive or starved you or whatever went on over there.
Right.
And so, yeah, absolutely.
I think it was the late prophet Whitney Houston who said, "No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity." Right.
Absolutely. With that good old Whitney. Yes, absolutely. You're hilarious, Cesar.
Just came to mind for some reason.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, I had the album of her in the bathing suit looking like all superpower.
Wow.
Remember?
Wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember, Cesar. Yeah. I guess that had to do with personal power as well.
It is. Yeah. It was very much so. I mean, the greatest love of all is learning to love yourself, I guess.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
That's so funny that Whitney came up in our episode. Yeah. So what were we talking? We were talking about good sufferings. What do those look like, to our brain? Yeah. So covering up, and so that #MeToo, covering up physical or mental abuse. Yes, that was bad, but by not saying anything, they give up their personal power, and so that happens to, I think, most people who live. Being bullied when I was young, having bad things happen to me when I was in college, not saying anything about it, I gave up my personal power.
Right.
I did. And I, allowing people, it's the same, allowing people to belittle you or disrespect you in a way, in those ways, is you giving away your power, because you can take it back, as you see by the #MeToo movement. People are now taking back their power that they given away previously.
Right.
Yeah,
that is true. And I also was bullied in high school, and I remember thinking, now thinking back, it's like the stuff that I just took, this would never happen today, and I don't think of myself as a different person. I'm the same guy. Mm-hmm. It's just that, I don't know, maybe I learned a few things but I let that get to me, and now there's very little that I let get to me. It's like, some could say that I could care less about a lot of things, but, and that's not a good thing, but I think it is in a way, because it kind of frees you to actually, create your own reality there in a way. Not like making up reality, but, I'm basically, describing your own narrative or what's going on in your life, and you have control over that, right? And you can choose to look at things that happen to you this way or that way, right? Let's say their company's laying everybody off, you can say, oh goodness, this is the end. Or you can say, oh, here's an opportunity for me to go and find a job that I actually enjoy.
Right.
And getting a severance pay in the process. So there's always ways that we can, train our thinking so we can basically change the reality, right? And as they say, perception is a reality. So how you perceive things is what's real to you. So, yeah. And
that's what this whole piece is about, because we all are going to be victims of something, of some circumstance, or maybe even of some people in some point in our lives. This is really about, do we accept that role? Do we carry it with us forever? Right. So I love what you said. I remember when I was in 6th grade, Mary, she was much bigger than I was. She threw me into a locker and said I called her a name, and I don't even talk to people back then, so I don't even know how I could have done that.
She was a stranger.
She was. I didn't talk to strangers, Cesar. Yeah. And so I just remember that. But I just remember, how I felt, which was crappy. But then later I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I lived through that. That's a good thing, right? And how did I do that? Just how did I, look at this situation and move forward from it? And I think that's the difference between being a true victim of a circumstance and then playing the part and accepting the role of the victim.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might get emails about this one, but we'll deal with that. I'm not a victim of this circumstance.
Good. That's very good. Yeah. So, yeah, you don't need to be good at being a victim there. Yeah.
Good. All right. Is there a third? Like, so the first tip was, to stop giving away your power. The second was the whole talk we just had about the brain thinking that it's good to be a victim. And is there a third one?
Of course, it's to just continuously grow, right? To develop yourself. So the first one told you to stop. The next one told you to, okay, now that you've stopped, let's examine what's going on. And now number 3 is continuously developing yourself. Let's get moving forward again. So have you ever listened to Jim Rohn? Do you know who he was? He was a popular motivational speaker. Uh-huh. One of the things that he always said, he always asked this question in his lectures and talks. He said, how tall will a tree grow? I mean, are you serious? I mean, how am I supposed to know? This is me and thinking in my head. I'm like, I don't know how tall. And the answer was as high as it possibly can. Mm. And then he said, but we as human beings, we stifle ourselves. We make excuses. We rationalize. We blame. We feel shame. We complain. We all get in our own way. Yeah. Right. And so we end up being stuck in childhood, in adolescence, in wherever we developed those thinking patterns, wherever we decided we weren't good enough or we were giving away our power and we couldn't do it. And so we end up staying there at that age. Yeah. And so, they say in the book, reaching adulthood is an achievement, but developing yourself and maturing is a choice.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Growing up growing up is mandatory. Growing old is
mandatory.
Yeah. Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional.
Right.
And it's something like that. But and I think what our history also dictates how we look at these things. I think a lot of, there was a moment, I have to think about this exactly when this happened, but when this kind of clicked for me, right? That actually I could grow as tall as I could, and not have this limiting mindset. And I remember one of the first, I think it was the first job that I had here in Canada was I worked at the mall selling TV sets, CRT. That was the end of that era, right? The year 2000 type of thing. And the thing is, people were not interested in buying TVs at that. Everybody had a TV already. That was before the new ones came out. These, flat panels.
Yeah.
And you remember, Traci, like your parents had a TV set. They probably had that TV set for like a couple decades, right?
Absolutely.
People didn't buy TVs. So here we had all these TVs and all these speakers and stuff. And the person who was a sales manager, and I'd never sold stuff like that before. He kept basically, quote unquote, training us, into doing sales and saying like, why limit yourself? Why work for a salary when you can make commission and make as much money as you want? And he kept drilling this into our heads, and we were not selling, not because we were bad salespeople, but because it was it was like a mall that was no longer the mall people went to, and nobody was buying TVs. So that made me feel for a long time that, that is BS. The sky's not the limit. There is a limit here, and what he's telling me, it's not true. So it made me feel bad about myself. Okay, I'm not selling. There's something wrong with me. Maybe I hit the big brick wall, and this is all I'm gonna do. I can't grow any more than this. And it was because of what some sales manager at a mall in Brampton, Ontario, told me once. Right? Who knows where this guy is today? But once I broke free from that, okay, now I know what I can do. Maybe it wasn't selling TVs in the late 90s, but it was to do something else, right? That this branch of the tree could grow in this other direction here,
Yeah.
But again, I was being like trapped by this narrative from somebody else's brain, right? Who's trying to get me to work basically, and move some dated inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes we think using other people's brains is the easy way. Right?
Right. Here's somebody who's a bit older than me, has been through more, and he's telling me this, so it must be true. Right. When
absolutely.
Maybe he has an agenda that I'm not aware of. He's just trying to manipulate you or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that, I mean, that's one of the many ways that we stop developing ourselves.
Right.
Right. I mean, some of us just procrastinate. We're always going to do that next month or next Monday even. I mean, we'll hey, 2018's coming up, right? We'll start it at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Oh, but wait a minute, there'll be too many parties. We can't start it then. And then there'll be work we have to catch up on, so we can't start it then. So that's another way where we stop and we want to move beyond that.
Right.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. One of my favorites though is, because I go around and speak at different professional organization meetings like PMI, and people come up and say, "Oh yeah, hey, do you do this? Do you do coaching? Do you do workshops?" And I'll be like, "Yeah," and they'll be like, "Oh, I wish I could go, but my company won't pay for it." I'm like, "What? What does that have to do with anything?" Right?
Yeah.
But we do. That's another thing that we do that lets people that keeps us from developing ourselves is we believe that it's somebody else's responsibility to invest in our development.
Yeah.
Right.
A good example, right? I have people writing me, right, because of the podcast. And even though I do have myself a bit of imposter syndrome, who am I to be talking about project management? I'm no better than anybody else. I just happen to like the microphone, whatever. But people look at me that way because they listen to me, right? And this February, I'm going to go on a leadership training that my company is paying for. And this is going to be the first time ever, right, that I'm going to some sort of seminar, leadership training that a company is paying for me to go, right? Everything else that I've done, and I've gone to, a training and seminars and things like that. I paid my own way, right, with money that I probably did not have at the time. But I was trying to get out of a rut. I was trying to move on to the next level and be better. And so that excuse just kind of annoys me a little bit. So what's more important? If you can't afford your training right now, right, you're probably not going to get that promotion because you don't have the training, or start the business that you want, or do whatever you want to do next so you can make more money to pay for whatever training comes down the line, right? So it's like a vicious circle of, life sucks. Oh, I don't have the money. Oh, I can do the training so I can make more money so I can do the training. And it's like you're stuck in there. So that's mindset too, just like, sell the second car, and do that one thing that you need to do.
Yeah. No, and it's really amazing because they, in that belief is they believe that their company cares about them getting to the next position. Well, to be honest, if you're in the role and you're performing really well, they don't want you to leave. Right. Because it costs money to get to hire people. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot less money just to retain you.
Right.
Right. So if you want to learn and grow, if you want to take back some of your power, you've got to take back some of your power by focusing on developing yourself. Yeah.
Right. And that was the intro for this podcast for a long time. And I haven't done this since this series, but I always say that your career matters more than your job. And I also say that your life matters more than your career. So your job and your employer is a role that you're playing right now. It is that the job is the one client you have right now. But eventually that's going to come to an end, and you need to. Your job stability is just your ability to land the next gig. People who listen to the show will recognize that, and and you can only have that ability to land gigs if you take control of your development, right? And take it. Okay, I'm my own boss in that regard. I need to develop myself, regardless of whether the company's paying for it or not. It needs to be a priority for you.
Yeah, but so often we hear people say, "Oh, I don't have time." Right? They take on the world's projects and then they ignore their own.
Right.
What do you mean you don't have time? Yes, that's your job, is to develop you first, and then take those gifts that you develop in you and basically sell them to the world, whether that's your company that you're getting paid for or your own business, whatever it happens. That's you taking on the world's projects, just is you giving away your power again, right?
Traci, do you have time to do this podcast here with me every Friday?
Do I have? I want to. I make time to do this.
Because
right?
I sure don't.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No. This is part. Yeah, this is part of that, right?
Yeah. So it's you just kind of shuffle things around, and you get up earlier, you go to bed later. You just for a time, for a period, and you make the time, and you come up with the resources. Like I remember when I wanted to self-publish the book, and it was going to cost thousands of dollars, and I first of all told my wife I was going to write a book. She rolls her eyes, right? Like, oh yeah, sure, you will. Like you're gonna.
Oh, Amy, come on.
I'm just kidding. She's super supportive, but I have tons of dreams and tons of ideas, and I act on maybe 1% of them because I'm kind of creative like that. So I'm sure when I brought up that idea, she was like, "Oh yeah, cool, that's awesome. Good for you to do that." But I didn't have the resources, so I just kind of how can I make this happen? That's why I did the Kickstarter campaign, and got up early every day to work on that before I got to work. And I'm not using myself as an example, but that's the closest example I have because it's, I'm inside of myself. So
right, it's you. Yeah,
it's me.
Absolutely.
But that was to me the fact that I was able to do that. It's just I still look back and say, how did I do that? And not only that, not only money-wise, but then I had to actually write the book after I funded it. Say, oh crap, and I have to write this thing. And then that was another massive, epic journey. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, driving to Starbucks and writing for 2 hours before going to work for like months on end. But if you really want to do something, if you really want to get to the next level, you just get out of your head and just kind of find a way. And people pay you and hire you to do that for them, right? Like project managers, man, they are like amazing. They're magicians, right?
Right. Yeah.
Here's the boss that says, "Hey, we need to do this. Can you please tell me right now when you can get it done, how much it's going to cost, and and how many people you need?" And somehow we make that happen. That's amazing, right? So why not apply that to your life as well, and use that technique to change your thinking, and and build your own power.
Absolutely. I mean, think about that challenge that you took on, right? To write a book. Yeah. So many people just avoid challenges. They think that the object of life is for life to be easy. No, I think the object of life is for us to take on the challenges so that we can learn and grow and develop ourselves. Right. And you did that. You said, hey, I want to write a book. And then you just went for it. And you learned and grew and developed along the way. You didn't have to have all the development and everything all in order first. I mean, you sold the book before you wrote it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Right.
You created a situation, knowing myself, right? Like I created a situation. Say, oh, crap, now all these people paid for this book already, and now I better write, or they'll come by my door with pitchforks or something. Yeah. And talk about easy life. Who has a really, really easy life? Are people on solitary confinement. They get the food for them.
Delivered right to their door. Yeah.
Right. And it's warm and they have shelter. I don't think they're happy, Traci.
Well, yeah, I don't think so either, but I don't want to find out.
Yeah. Change your ways, Traci.
Oh, thanks, Cesar. Thanks a lot.
Change your thoughts and you'll be okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool. So what's next then? So we talk about power, what it is, what it isn't, things that we can do to kind of reclaim that power. So what would you say is next here?
Well, I mean, making the decision to regain your personal power for happiness and taking on projects, right? To become that mature adult. Now, a lot of us already think that we are, but there's certain areas, right? So the process of becoming the person that you aspire to be. And, when I hear the intro and to your podcast, and life is a project and you are the manager. That's really what taking your power back is all about, right? The whole project, it takes decades. But what it leads to is your satisfaction and your fulfillment as a human being. And so at the end of your life, you can look back and say, you know what, that was freaking awesome. I lived, I loved, I made a difference. And feeling that fulfillment is what happens and what you're capable of doing when you take back and reclaim your personal power.
Very cool. Very nice. So we're going to talk about so let's talk briefly about next episode. What are we going to talk about then? How does it relate to this?
Yeah. So next episode, we're going to talk about creating your purpose.
Okay.
So, because I don't believe that we find it. I believe that we have power, and power is used to create things. However, I believe that's what's happened in the past is that we've been taught that our purpose is something different than what I believe it is. I think it more has to do with your being than your doing. And there's a formula out there, be times do equals have. And I think a lot of people focus a lot on the do because they don't understand the be. So next time, we're really going to talk about how to set goals around who you want to be and become and what your aspirations are in that area.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So Traci, this has been, sorry, I think I talked too much today. But
That's
I don't know.
Awesome.
I felt like this really spoke to me. I hope people listening right now felt the same way, because this is powerful stuff, and there's no pun there. I mean, it is powerful to talk about power. Traci, so thank you so much again. We'll talk on episode 106, I guess. Time's flying.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your time, and stay warm there in freezing Houston, Texas.
Thanks so much, Cesar. I appreciate it.
And to all of you listening, thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you again next time. And until then, remember that life is a project and you are the manager. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
PMforthemasses.com